Hi Year 7, welcome to Mrs Young's kitchen. This is a bit weird. Now if we were at school we'd be making vroom soup because we've been studying nutrients and what's healthy eating. So we can't cook at school today, so what I thought I'd do was I'd show you the recipe that we'd be making. Unfortunately, of course, I couldn't get all the ingredients that are on our vroom soup book. So I've had to invent a few things. But if we were to make this is the equipment that you'd need. Of course, we need our green chopping board because the green chopping board is for vegetables. We'd need a cup ready for measuring water. We'd need a saucepan. We'd need half a teaspoon, a wooden spoon, and a knife. Then we need our ingredients. So I looked at the ingredients, as I said, on the vroom recipe, and I couldn't get all of them. So I went to my fridge and I looked and I saw what vegetables I had. And later on, I'll be asking you what vegetables are in your fridge that you could use for a vegetable soup. So when I looked in my fridge, I had a stick of celery, I had some pumpkin, I had half a potato, a bit of carrot, an eggplant, some broccoli, I had some onion, I had bay leaves, and I had the vegetable stock. So I had a lot of the things, but I didn't have the red lentils. So instead of red lentils, I found a small can of chickpeas. So I'm going to use those instead. So in a minute, I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do to make our recipe. But before I start, of course, I have to do a few things. I haven't got a hairnet, so I had to tie my hair back. I haven't got gloves at home because they're hard to get at the moment, so I had to take as much jewellery off as I could, but I couldn't get all of my jewellery off. And then of course I've got my apron, I've cleaned my bench, and then I'm going to wash my hands, ready to go. And then we'll be ready to start. I'm going to use paper towel to dry my hands because we know that that is more hygienic than using a tea towel or a cloth. Okay. So we've got our equipment, we've got the ingredients that we could find. So now we're going to prepare. So the first thing we have to do is we have to read our recipe and check the processes. So I need to get all of my vegetables ready. So the first thing it says is to finely dice an onion. So I'm going to cut the end off and then I'm going to peel the excess off and then I'm going to finely dice it. Now it's a bit tricky because I've only got half an onion, so I'm probably best to use a fork to help to hold the onion so I don't cut my fingers because we know how to cut. So I'm just going to cut this into slices like this, fold it down, and then tucking my fingers away into that grip that we've talked away, I'm going to slice the onion. And remember, try not to breathe in over the onion because that's what makes you cry. So that's our first bit. Then I need to prepare the rest of my vegetables. And I'll probably do that later and show you when they're done. But I will show you the carrot. I'm going to leave the skin on the carrot. I'm not going to peel it. And I think you know why. I'm not going to peel it because under the skin is where most of the nutrients are. So I'm just going to wash that. And I'm not going to peel the potato either because I want the best nutrients in my soup. So I've washed most of these vegetables. And now we'll start preparing the rest of them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll probably cut up some carrot, like so. I'm going to cut it long ways because it says in the recipe to dice it. And we want all our vegetables to be the same size. So I'm just going to cut that up very gently, trying to keep my fingers out of the way because I don't want to cut my fingers. So I'm just going to dice that. And then I'm going to dice all the rest of my vegetables to a similar size. So I'm going to have everything ready to cook. Okay, I'll be back in a second to show you the next bits. Okay. Welcome back. So I've done most of the preparation. So when we left, I'd cut up the onion and then I went and I cut up the eggplant into little cubes, the potato with the skin on into cubes, the carrot with the skin on into cubes. I found some pumpkin, so I took the skin off that and cut it into cubes. I was lucky enough to have in my fridge some sweet potatoes. So I'm going to add that as well. So I've cut that into cubes. And then I've cut up some celery into slices, about the same size. And then on this side, I found some broccoli, as I showed you before, and I've cut this into very small pieces, and I've kept this separate because I think this will cook quicker than the other vegetables. And I've got in my bowl, I've washed and drained my chickpeas, which I will add later because they just need to heat up. So the next thing we need to do is actually start cooking. So I've got my pan, and I need to add into the bottom of the pan a half a teaspoon of olive oil. Whoops, a bit much, but that doesn't matter. Okay, and then I'm going to heat up this olive oil a little bit, and I'm going to saute the onion. So this will take not very long to heat up. And to saute the onion, I didn't have a brown onion, well, I didn't in the fridge, so I just had a red onion, so that's why I'm using it. So saute means just to cook it in hot oil for a bit until it goes clear. I don't want it to go brown, I don't want it to burn, I just want it to release its flavours. So saute means just to cook it quickly until it goes clear, just to release the flavours. So we're just waiting for the oil to heat up. And I need to watch that because I don't want any accidents in the kitchen. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, my oil's heated up, so now I'm just going to saute my onion. And I'm going to be careful it doesn't spit at me too much. So as I said, I'm just stirring it around just to saute it, just to get the flavours out. And then just till it goes a little bit soft. So that only takes about probably a minute, depending on how hot your oil is and how big the pan is. I can smell the onion now, so I know it's releasing its flavours. So that means it's pretty much ready for the other ingredients to go in. The onions have all separated. So now I'm going to add, exactly as it said on the recipe, it says add pumpkin curry and celery. And I've got some other vegetables that I'm going to add as well, that are hard vegetables that will take about the same amount of time to cook. So I've added the celery, I'm adding the eggplant then, and I'm adding the potato. And now I'm going to add the sweet potato. This is going to be quite a big soup. I hope my pan's big enough. And the pumpkin. I didn't realise I had so many good nutritious vegetables in my fridge. And you probably noticed that I've tried to use all different coloured vegetables because different colours sometimes indicate different nutrients and minerals. Okay, now that's all in there. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit because it's a bit high. And I'm going to saute that now for 3 minutes. Just again, I'm releasing the flavours and just sauteing it a bit. We don't want anything to stick and burn, so I'm just giving it a bit of a stir for 3 minutes. So I'll be back in a little while when 3 minutes is up. Okay, so they've been sauteing for 3 minutes. So now we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So I've got 250 mils of water, which we know is a cup, and I may have to add more water later because I've got so many vegetables. So I'm going to add the water in. Then I'm going to add my stock cube. And you might have powdered stock at home, or who knows, you might not even have any stock, so you can just use no stock in it. Then I'm going to add my bay leaf. And I'm going to add, because remember the recipe said corn and I didn't have any. So I'm going to add my chickpeas. And the last thing, because I want some green in my soup, is my broccoli. So I'm just going to add that. Okay. I'm going to stir that around and I'm going to bring it to the boil. And the boil, remember, means when it's bubbling. And I'm looking at it, and I think it might need a little bit more water because I've had so many veggies in there. So I'm going to add another half a cup. And that should be it. So I'm going to bring it to the boil. And then I'm going to let it with this bay leaf. The bay leaf we don't eat later, but the bay leaf gives it some flavour. So I'm going to let it boil. And once it comes to the boil, which means it's really bubbling, I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer for 15 minutes. So it's taking a little bit, it hasn't quite got to the boil yet, so I might have to turn my heat up again. I'm using an electric hot plate, and we have those at school if you remember, and we also have gas. Gas is a little bit quicker than my electric. Some of you at home might have an induction cooktop, which are fantastic these days, and even quicker. Okay, it's come to the boil, which means it's bubbling away, so I'm going to turn it down, and I'm going to let it simmer, which means it's going to bubble just slightly for 15 minutes, so all those vegetables are cooked. So I'll be back in 15 minutes to show you what it looks like. Okay, so while you've been away, I've been stirring this and making sure that things aren't sticking to the bottom, and I've been adding water so that there's plenty of moisture in it. I've also, if you look at my bench, I've cleaned up, and so that's important, remember to clean up as you go. Okay, how do I know that it's ready? So I'm going to choose my hardest vegetable, and so my hardest vegetable is usually my potatoes. So I've taken a piece out, and I've put my fork in, and that's gone nice and soft. So to me, that's ready. And looking at my soup, I probably should have added my broccoli about halfway through, so it would have remained nice and bright. It's gone a bit dull, which means it's a bit overcooked. Okay, our next thing is to bring it over and serve it up. So I'm putting it on my wooden board because I can't put it on the bench, and I have a bowl and plate and a ladle. Let's have a look at how it looks. Oh, one thing I forgot is I need to put some seasoning in. So I need a dash of pepper and I need a dash of salt. And I'm just going to turn off my fan because it's a bit noisy. Okay, and the other thing I need to take out, and I'm going to use my fingers, which maybe not be very hygienic, is I need to take the bay leaf out because that's just for flavour. Okay, let's see what our soup looks like. Now it all depends on what vegetables you've got. Oh, my glasses are fogging up. What you can have in, what colours are in your soup. But remember, the main thing with vegetable soup is to try and have a variety of vegetables so you get a variety of nutrients. Okay, and remember, as they cooked, I had to keep adding water. So I've cut up some parsley and I've washed it, and I'm just going to, it's always important to put a little bit of garnish on your dishes, and voila, it's ready to eat. Now, some people don't like chunky soup, so what you can do is you can use a blender and just blend it or mash it with a potato masher to make it more of a smooth soup. But we in our family like it chunky. Okay, so that is our vegetable broom soup, which is in our recipe book. So we'll do a little bit of work on this now. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my show, Year 7.